Sure. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Beatriz Bucarey, soy intérprete para la Escuela Pública Condado de Fairfax. Si quisiera atender la traducción de esta presentación, por favor déjenoslo saber. Vamos a estar separados en grupos en unos minutos. Gracias.
All right, thank you, Beatrice. Hope everybody's well. I think the first thing we're going to do as we get started tonight is, so we have a few minutes. I think we're actually going to spend more time later on in the agenda. We're going to have discussion and update on the Family Engagement Survey, and the most interactive portion would be the Family Engagement pandemic efforts. And if anybody was able to connect with their principal or vice principal before this meeting, please share some of that information too. There were some questions that went out in an email last week about type of discussion or the feedback that the Title I office is really looking from us to provide. And then there'll be discussion and action on bylaw amendments. We'll have to vote on that, and then that will close us. So I'm going to get out of the way and let Renee LaHuffman-Jackson take over. Dr. Jackson, please take it away.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for inviting me. And I just want to take a little time to talk about the Family Engagement Survey. So the Family Engagement Survey for 2021 has been canceled. And the reason it's being canceled, well, this was the year that we were going to do our family engagement survey. The last one was in 2019, and there was a decision from leadership that we would not do our family engagement survey, and we would use the ORSI. And ORSI is our Office of Research and Strategic Initiatives. They sent out a survey to families throughout the division, and we put 5 questions on that survey around the family engagement survey, some data that we wanted to collect, and we're going to use that information to help us collect some feedback from families, not around distance learning, but around family engagement. ORSI also had focus groups, and they met with different groups of families to gather feedback with them in the focus groups. In our office, Family and School Partnerships, we're going to do the same. We're going to begin doing some focus groups in spring of this year to gather feedback from many of our stakeholders, and we're really going to try to reach some of our underrepresented communities because we want to hear everyone's voice, especially the families that oftentimes are marginalized. So that's going to be our focus on reaching out for our focus groups from our office. And we're also collaborating with the Title I office to gather feedback from Title I schools families, because as you know, in terms of compliance, we have to have a family engagement survey of some type for Title I families to complete annually. That is all of my portion on the family engagement survey. Even though we're not going to do the division-wide family engagement survey this year, we are still gathering that feedback from multiple stakeholders. Any questions or any clarification that anyone may have, or any wonderings? Mike?
Hey, Renee. So, question. I'm sorry, I was running back and forth trying to print something out, but what's the timeline for the focus groups?
We'll do them over probably about a 4 to 6 week time frame. We haven't gotten the dates yet, but we're getting ready to start those.
Okay.
Working with our community organizations and a lot of different stakeholders to do those focus groups.
Okay. So will you be coming back to us and to get some folks for the focus groups, something like that, or?
Of course.
Oh.
Of course. You're our stakeholder group.
Just
Yes,
don't want to
sir.
miss it.
Sarah?
Hi, thanks for being here tonight. I was just curious, how often does that family engagement survey usually go? Is it like an every 2 years kind of thing, or 5, or how often do you guys usually do that?
Yes, every other year. So
Okay.
This 21 was our year to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Just curious. Thanks.
Yes. You're welcome.
I'm sorry. What was the Office of Resource, and there was an S word.
Research.
Research. Okay.
Yes.
So what's the S?
Strategic.
Initiative. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Renee, I'm wondering, and we might also add that although we're not doing a division level survey, right, that's why Renee's here tonight, because your voice and your narratives matter. And we know that the survey was one way in which we could sort of assess our current reality, but there's always more stories behind the data. And so your narratives, and when you participate in focus groups, it's really the power we get of hearing from you about your lived experiences. And I would also say, many of your schools will probably still be doing their own thing locally. So this was more about that division-wide approach, but many of your schools, so if you're taking notes thinking, what might I say to my principal in a conversation follow-up, you can ask them, was this something that they included in their school improvement plan this year? Was this part of their family engagement compact? Because many of our Title I schools in particular have long since been gathering feedback from parents well before FCPS embarked on the inaugural survey 2 years ago. So it'd be a good piece of conversation for you to go back with your principals and say, talk me through, how did you use it in your school improvement plan? Is there anything I can do to help to get feedback or representation from our school?
Thank you for that, Leona.
Yeah, and to further contribute to that, as part of the SIP, there should also be identified action steps and strategies around family engagement, because as Mike said earlier, that is that is a requirement of Title I. So being able to look at the data and then seeing how the schools responded to those identified needs and what strategies were developed as a result of that. And I also know that a number of schools utilize that family engagement survey to really target that caring culture goal within the SIP. And so in many of the schools that our Title I teams supported, there was a lot about increasing relationships between families and school, or in better enhancements to that home school interaction. So we, to Leona's point, that comprehensive needs assessment along with the school SIP is really important.
Thank you.
Anything else, Dr. Jackson?
No, I'm done. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you. Okay, so next, for those who, if you saw before, try to send out a little bit in advance, but there's some information that the county is trying to really gather from us, from our stakeholder group in particular. And Leona, I know it's written down. Do you want to speak a little bit to it before we go into our breakouts, what the discussion could be like?
Yes, thank you, Mike. I can give a little bit of context. So sort of related to this idea of family engagement, one of the things we talked about at the executive board is concerning data we've seen recently and some trends around enrollment data across our schools, particularly students who identify as needing some support financially. So a category we call our economically disadvantaged students. So when we were looking at the data across the division, we saw an alarming amount of students disproportionate to other students who unenrolled in FCPS. And so we need to find out what's going on. Is this, we can make assumptions about why. We know that the pandemic has really hit folks in many ways beyond health, although health is the primary thing. Financially, the pandemic has really placed a burden on our families. I also know that speaking with some of our partners in Fairfax government and looking at that data there, I just realized I'm talking without my camera. Sorry. And speaking with them, we also know that there's some patterns of evictions on the rise in certain zip codes within Fairfax County, which correlate a lot to where a lot of our Title I schools are located. However, these are just assumptions we're making. So sort of back to what we were talking about before, instead of just making assumptions, we want to talk a little bit about it. Perhaps you may know about families who've unenrolled from FCPS for a variety of reasons. Maybe, they had to move in with other families. Maybe of families that had to move in with other families. Perhaps they've gone to private school. Perhaps they've relocated out of the area. Maybe they're trying a different model. And so instead of us making assumptions, we want to check in and see what you may know or what we might need to be thinking about. And then in addition to that, one correlation we're making is engagement. So one thing we might consider that families might be leaving because perhaps they're not feeling engaged, or maybe school's not working the way they need it to be working right now. They're not feeling supported. So we want to hear from you of what have been some strategies that have been effective in your opinion, especially during the pandemic and transitioning. Some folks are going into the building this week and starting in the next few weeks. Some are going to stay home. What's been going well? So there's some good questions on here that the executive board brainstormed around things that we might want to know more about, but that's sort of the context of these breakout groups. We want to hear from you, and maybe you may not know, but you can help us even brainstorm some other ideas. Or you can say from your experience, here's how it feels to be engaged right now. Mike, did that answer that for you?
Yes, it did. Thanks, Leon. I just thought I'd give a little context and background as how we got here. And like I said, for those of you, if anybody was able to hear from your administrator, share that, but make sure you make it clear that that's their perspective and their information and doesn't have to be yours. Make sure you can distinguish which from which, because it does come from a different perspective. I think at this point we can be sent into our breakouts. We have 3 rooms. Okay. Find the room you wish to break out. I'm following the instructions like everybody else. So.
So Courtney, might you take a moment to highlight the directions, please?
Mm-hmm. Good evening, everyone. So in your breakout groups, in just a second, I'm going to click start. Underneath, if you go to the right side of your screen, you'll see the participants, the little people at the bottom. If you click on the participants, underneath, you'll see everybody that's here. Underneath, you will see these doors that have a green arrow. You should be able to click on the door to be able to enter that group. So for group 1, Gina Toller will be facilitating. For group 2, Yvonne Denome will be facilitating. And for group 3, Lisa Felder will be facilitating. Or if you need Beatrice, she will be staying in the main room to help facilitate a conversation. What questions might you have before I start the groups, or open the doors, should I say? Why don't I go ahead and open the doors, and then from there you can ask any questions that you have.
Courtney, can we just clarify, because some of them may not realize, normally some of you may have experienced where we automatically put you in small groups. The big difference is you're going into a group. Is that what's happening, Courtney?
Yes, so they will get to select their group this time, just so that way we could partner Beatrice with people that needed her support. So you can choose your group. So I'm going to start the breakout groups. You'll click the participants tab and you should be able to see the doors under the list of participants. So then I'll ask for if you have any questions or if you can't see the doors in just a moment.
I have one comment. Oops, too late.
No, it's okay. It's not going to put you in a group. You're still
Okay,
good.
I just wanted to make sure,
Okay.
because I don't know if make sure that it's balanced.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have 18, I guess 18 participants. We just want to make sure that we have enough in each room, that they're not top heavy, you know?
Sure. So Mike, I can actually move people groups too.
Okay.
So let's see how they kind of
As
even
long as
out and
folks
see.
know that they're being moved to balance out and they
Sure.
didn't do anything. Only one who gets kicked out for behavior is me, so.
Okay. Okay, so you should see, if you scroll down to the bottom of the participants tab, you should see the doors with the green arrow in them. If you just click on the door, it will take you into that group. And please let me know if you need help, and I'm happy to move you into the group that you want to go into. Moses, Martha, Carla, Andrea, or Miss Omesh, do any of you need me to move you to a group?
No,
I'm
I will
happy to
be
be
in the
with.
main room.
Go ahead, Martha.
I will be in here. Voy a estar aquí.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and this is Moses. I got a notification I was going to be in the main group too, so.
Okay.
Hi, Courtney. It's Andrea. I think I was gonna look to see if there was a smaller group, and I was gonna join that one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, this is
Sure.
Carla. If you can help me get to a group, I don't know what
Sure.
happened.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I can move you. Let me look at the groups and see. Okay, I'm going to move you to group 1, Carla.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
I'm happy to be where I'm most useful. So if you think, that's why I'm here, really, to support the group. So whatever you think is best is fine.
Okay. If you wanted to, you could even pop around to all the groups. You could move if you wanted to hear a little bit of what group 1 says and then go to group 2 and hear a little bit of what group 2 says and then go to group 3. That's possible too.
Yeah,
you can always click on the doors, hop around.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then Beatrice, do you have the form with all the questions to ask your group?
I do.
Okay, great.
Yes, I do have them. But I only got that question that I asked earlier to Yvonne.
Okay.
Yeah, the other
Did you
mother.
get the form with the 3 questions?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Do you want to read the questions to your group and type in the answers to the form?
Okay. And me.
Or is there any way that I can help you?
So we are.
Hi, Kristen.
Here.
Do you need me to move you to a group? I apologize, Beatrice. I didn't mean to
It's
interrupt
okay.
you.
Oh, I just got kicked out. I'm getting back in again.
Okay. Do you want me to move you to
Sure,
a group?
wherever
Did you
need
want
me
to
go? That's
Okay,
fine.
I'll move you now.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hmm. Okay, I have it here. What strategies have been effective in keeping students and families engaged?
Mhm.
What are the areas in need of greatest improvement for supporting students and families at this time? And number 3 would be, what 3 or 5 principles should guide the discussions and decisions made by county leadership and school board members? There are, like, let me see, 4, right? 4 questions. The first one is, do you know any families who were enrolled at your school last year but are no longer enrolled? If you do, have you been in communication with them, and are you aware of what circumstances led to them unenrolling from the school?
Hi, Martha. Do you have a question? Do you need her to read the questions in Spanish?
No, tengo la respuesta para esa pregunta. Yo tengo un ejemplo de una mamá que se mudó de la escuela.
Oh, ¿usted tiene? Ajá, dígame cuál es.
Bueno, ella se mudó de casa, pero siempre se buscaba mudarse porque ella decía que la escuela era mala. Y cuando se ha mudado, le pregunté cómo le ha ido en la escuela. Y ella dice que está muy bien, que es 100 veces mejor que la escuela en la que estamos. Y que todos, mira, la respuesta que me dio fue esta, que la mayoría de los estudiantes son blanquitos, que es súper buena la escuela. Esa fue la respuesta.
Oh my goodness, o sea que ella se fue a la otra escuela porque allá son blancos y es mejor que donde estaba antes, que eran la mayoría.
Bueno, en nuestra escuela en Parkland la mayoría son inmigrantes y
Okay.
los blancos son como lunares nomás en la escuela. Sí.
¿Y a dónde se fue esa mamá, sabe?
School Line, algo así se llama. Es como a
¿privada?
30 minutos de la escuela de actualmente pero sigue siendo Fairfax.
O sea, es de Fairfax. Ah, entonces es una escuela privada.
No, sigue siendo pública, pero en esa zona los estudiantes, la mayoría son blancos.
Sí, pero ¿me puede decir otra vez? Porque no reconozco esa escuela.
Line, L-A-N-E.
L-A-N-E, Lane. Oh, Anthony Lane. Ella
No
se
sé
fue
si será Anthony, pero sí, más para allá se fue. Ajá.
Anthony Lane, se pronuncia así.
Oh, ok.
Yo pensé que ¿usted habla inglés o no?
Poquito.
Ah, ok, disculpe, no sabía. Yo pensé que estaba, como nadie me dijo, no expresó, no vi que levantaran la mano para que te necesitaban español. Entonces,
sí entiendo, pero no puedo hablar mucho.
Ya, que usted siente que entonces una mamá le dijo que se había mudado de la escuela donde estaba, ¿por qué? ¿Qué fue?
Porque, bueno, que tenía que mudarse siempre ella, porque no le gustaba la escuela, cómo enseñan los maestros o cómo era todo. Y entonces ella se mudó y ella me hace una comparación de nuestra escuela con la actual escuela donde está su hijo y me dice que 100 veces mejor.
Okay. ¿Y cuál es esa escuela?
Es la que le dije, The Lane. Y mi escuela es Parkland.
Entonces, porque ella sentía que no la trataban bien.
No, sino decía que su hijo estaba a un nivel superior que los de la escuela, que no lo tomaban en cuenta a su hijo, según ella era.
No sentía que le daban mucho apoyo a su niño.
Beatrice, I think Moses has a question. He's raising his hand.
Hi, no, Courtney, I did have a question. I could tell that the conversation is spirited. Unfortunately, I am not keeping up because my Spanish is not up to par. So I apologize.
Oh, really?
Yes, I didn't. Because I didn't know everyone that was in the main group. So I apologize, ladies.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. I was keeping up with some, but I was not keeping up with all. So I don't know.
Do you want me to move you groups?
I was gonna say maybe I know I don't want to interrupt the continuity of another group, but but probably that would probably be best so I could keep.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna mind. Okay, I'm gonna move you to group 2.
Okay.
Thank you, Beatrice.
My pleasure. No, I'm glad that you caught that because I thought that she spoke English.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah,
I understand. Oh, I'm sorry. You can go ahead, Beatrice. I apologize.
You want me to read the answers or you want me to type them in?
Oh, she's answered all of them. Awesome.
Oh, she did. Okay.
I don't know. I wasn't sure. Were you reading the questions?
Yes.
Okay. And then did you type them into the form that Yvonne gave you?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. You're not able to see the form right now?
So right now, I'm trying to do attendance, do minutes, and control.
That's fine, that's fine. Señora Marta, entonces dígame, ¿qué estrategias ustedes creen han sido efectivas en mantener a los estudios y las familias comprometidas en participar en la educación?
Bueno, por ahora, por la escuela que tengo, han hecho cafés con la directora para tratar de tener no perder la comunicación con los padres. Y con los niños están tratando de hacer este morning news. Cada mañana la escuela para todas las clases pone noticias que hablan de todo lo que pasa, hasta del weather, del clima hablan. Y creo que están tratando de esa manera y está funcionando. A muchos niños les gusta las noticias que pasan cada mañana en la escuela. Y también que están haciendo distribución de libros para tratar de que los papás y los niños siempre vayan por lo menos a la escuela una vez.
Virtual, ¿verdad?
Sí, virtual. Sí, ya han empezado, pero a regresar niños a la escuela en grupos.
Ajá, sí, comenzaron, sí. La directora ha mantenido haciendo cafés. También los niños participan en las reuniones matutinas. ¿Qué más?
A ver, ¿qué más podríamos decir? Acerca de tratan de hacer como una distribución de libros. Por ejemplo, por lo menos en este año va a ser la tercera este mes. En todo el año que ha empezado la escuela, 3 veces han hecho distribuciones de libros. Creo que ha sido eso lo más importante que ha hecho que la escuela y los padres sigan todavía conectados. ¿Hola?
Ajá, sí, ya va que estoy escribiendo. Es que esto se me movió. Principal. Cada vez, ¿sabe cuándo son las reuniones es mensual?
¿Los cafés con la directora?
Ajá.
No, solo hemos tenido 2 al principio y para los papás que han optado por el retorno a la escuela de sus hijos, en estos grupos que están regresando, ha habido un café especial para ellos. Pero yo no he asistido a ese porque ninguno de mis hijos está regresando a la escuela.
Ya. También me dijo algo de los niños buscando libros.
Sí, La escuela hace repartición de libros, o sea, regala los libros. Un paquete de
¿Cómo los
libros,
regala?
sí, los regala.
¿Ellas van a la escuela a buscarlo o ella los envía a la casa?
No, todos los padres tienen que ir a recogerlo. Dan un horario en la tarde por unas 2 o 3 horas y los papás pasan en auto y lo recogen.
Libros, ¿verdad?
Sí, libros.
¿Solamente libros?
Sí, libros y la semana pasada dieron útiles escolares.
Ya. ¿Y eso era para todos los estudiantes o solamente para los que iban a regresar en persona?
Para todos los estudiantes.
¿Usted participó en alguna de esas? No, ¿verdad?
¿De recoger los libros? Sí.
Ajá.
Sí,
¿Y
sí.
cómo puede decir fue el ambiente? ¿La familia las veía contenta? ¿Estaban?
A mis hijos les gusta leer, así que estaban muy felices con los libros. Pero ese motivo de ir a recoger algo a la escuela, creo que eso ayuda a que siga habiendo esa conexión de la familia con la escuela.
Estoy poniendo eso, que fue una buena manera de conectarse, ¿right? Now, ¿usted cree cuáles son las áreas de más grande necesidad para mejorar el soporte estudiantil y a las familias durante este tiempo?
Áreas, por ahora,
De necesidad.
bueno, por ejemplo, desde mi punto de vista como mamá, hasta ahora están trabajando muy bien la escuela, bueno, las maestras de mis hijos con mis hijos y con las clases. Para mí que está bien, no es necesario que vayan a la escuela en persona todavía, porque siguen ellos aprendiendo, siguen participando, siguen hablando con sus compañeritos, aunque estén por medio de la computadora.
Y así en general, cuando usted estuvo las pocas veces que ha ido a la escuela, ¿ha visto alguna área de necesidad? Por ejemplo, acuérdese de las cuestiones de las computadoras, de las internet y todas esas cosas. ¿Cree que haya algo que mejorar o su escuela ha estado activamente ayudando a los muchachos si, por ejemplo, algo se les daña de la computadora, cómo irlas a arreglar o algún tipo así, o comunicarse con los maestros?
Pienso que está bien. Y eso que tengo una amiga que bueno, ella renta una casa y la dueña de casa se enfermó de COVID y tuvo que mudarse con su papá en Maryland. Y la computadora que tenía no encendía y tuvo que llevar otra computadora y la prendió en Maryland. Y inmediatamente la profesora al día siguiente le preguntó a su hijo, ¿te mudaste a Maryland? ¿Propusiste ya no vives aquí en Fairfax? Le dijo. Y así que eso me da a pensar de que sí están muy atentos a todo lo que pasa con cada estudiante.
Hi, Leslie. Is there a group you'd like to join or that you were in that you got kicked out of?
I joined late.
Oh, okay. I'm going to put you in group 3, okay? What they're doing is they're discussing a series of questions with Lisa being your facilitator. Lisa works for Title I. Okay?
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Usted tiene 2 niños en la escuela, ¿verdad?
Sí, tengo 2, en quinto y en tercero.
Puede decir de 3 a 5 principios que deberían guiar la discusión o las discusiones y las decisiones hechas por los líderes del condado y del consejo escolar.
El principio, lo más principal sería que sea igual, equitativo. Equitativo todo lo que hagan, no solo para unas escuelas, sino para otras. Eso me parecería. Y también que en plan avanzados, pienso que no hay justicia en cuando entran para IEP. No veo que suba el número en nuestra escuela, sino todos son por recomendación.
IEP, el IEP es el programa individualizado para los niños. Es que
No,
tienen
el AP, el APP. Ese. El APP, ¿verdad? El plan avanzado.
¿Usted por qué cree que no es muy diverso la población que participa del programa avanzado?
Porque yo he tratado de poner a mi hija por 3 años, y ahora me he dado por vencida, ya no he intentado este año. He hecho todo lo que me han pedido, pero
¿Usted cree
que me tenían discriminado, sí,
por qué se siente discriminada? ¿Y
siento que he
tiene
sido discriminada.
alguna evidencia de eso?
No, porque no te llega ninguna prueba, solo una carta diciéndote que no ha cumplido los requerimientos, nada más. No puedes decir nada, no has estado
No hay
en la
mucha
reunión.
transparencia. ¿Le parece que no hay mucha transparencia ni comunicación en cómo qué fue lo que?
Exacto, eso me gustaría, que sea más transparente.
Ok.
Gracias.
Déjeme ver. En alguna otra que decir, dice 3 a 5 principios que deberían de guiar las discusiones. Entonces, usted piensa que la equidad, la transparencia, aunque aquí dice que los principios que deberían de guiar las discusiones y las decisiones hechas por los líderes tanto de la escuela como del consejo escolar. Oh, gosh. Lo de la equidad está bien. ¿Usted cree que transparencia? Vamos a poner.
Transparencia también podría entrar.
Ya.
Un tercero, ¿cuál podría ser?
Entonces, llevamos 2. ¿Qué
Sí.
otro principio? Usted sabe que esas reuniones del consejo escolar son bien largas a veces, ¿no? Y cuesta que se pongan de acuerdo. De verdad que deberían de que no se juegue, no cree. ¿Usted las ha visto?
Sí, duran muchas horas. Y a veces hablan solo de lo mismo. ¿Cómo diría que sea una manera concreta de hablar de soluciones concretas? Otra manera de decirlo.
Sí, que ellos sean realmente concisos y en sus maneras de buscar la solución y pum, es esto, es hacer, no estar. Lo que pasa es que se juega mucho de política ahí también.
Sí. Y también que se cumpla todo lo que van a decir, porque no siempre se cumple en todas las escuelas. ¿Qué tal si ponemos también empatía?
Vamos a ponerle que las reuniones son tan largas, lo cual hace que muchas familias inmigrantes no quieran participar.
Sí, porque a muchos se cansan también de escuchar. En la pregunta número aquí en what the areas they need greatest improvement for supporting students and family at this time, ¿solo estamos hablando por lo de la pandemia o en tiempo normal podemos hablar de eso?
En este momento, en el tiempo que
Oh,
estamos.
porque si lo decían normal, hubiera pedido que haya mayor disciplina en las escuelas, que también disciplinen a los papás que también necesitan.
Oh, eso no se puede hacer. Por más que la escuela no tenemos maneras de disciplinar a los papás, ¿no?
O por lo menos cuando su hijo haga algo malo, que el padre vaya en persona a hablar. Eso está, en mi escuela eso falla mucho. Beatriz, tenemos más personas en nuestro grupo. En inglés les podrías preguntar si tal vez tengan alguna respuesta para alguna de las preguntas.
Así hay más. Déjeme ver. A ver, ¿está usted? La que está es la representante del Consejo Escolar, la señora Abrar Omeish. Creo que ella habla español. ¿Verdad, Miss Omeish?
Sí, un poco. Puedo tratar, hola.
Hola. ¿Y el señor George Becerra? ¿Usted habla español?
Sí, un poco.
Ah, un poco. Bueno,
Poco mil
bienvenido.
palabras.
¿Perdón?
Un poco mil palabras.
So you prefer in English?
No, los dos, está bien.
Ah, está vacilando. Está bien. Estábamos discutiendo unas preguntas que se enviaron a los padres, ¿verdad? Para esta noche discutir y ver qué inputs podrían ustedes darnos, ¿verdad? Son 4 preguntas. La primera es si usted conoce familias que estuvieron inscritas en su escuela el año pasado, pero que ya no están más. Y que si usted todavía conoce alguna de estas familias, si se ha mantenido en comunicación con ellas y si usted está al tanto de saber las circunstancias que hicieron que esa familia se fueran de la escuela. ¿Usted sabe?
Yo no conozco a alguien.
¿No conoce ninguna familia que se haya ido de Fairfax County Public Schools?
No.
Ya. Now, ¿qué estrategias usted encuentra han sido efectivas en mantener a los estudiantes y a las familias envueltas en la educación y participando en la educación activamente? ¿Sabe alguna estrategia? Por ejemplo, la señora Marta dice que en su escuela la directora ha sostenido un par de cafés con la directora para mantenerse, ¿verdad? Al principio, sobre todo del año escolar, para conocer a las familias, compartir con ellas, darles cómo iban a trabajar. También ha sostenido entrega de libros y de materiales a los muchachos, lo cual ha sido muy bueno, piensa ella, porque los muchachos se han puesto muy contentos de verse en la escuela, aunque sea por ratitos y allí a la distancia, y le están dando libros, lo cual es beneficioso para los niños, así como material que podían necesitar los niños. ¿En su escuela usted ha visto algún tipo de estrategias que le parecen buenas?
Una cosa es para tener los PTAs en español, pueden usar un meeting en español, otro meeting en inglés. Solo los otros padres americanos saben la problema o la dificultades, de tener ese earphones, para usar eso. So, si puede los PTAs en idiomas, más de español también, depende de la escuela, si habla coreano.
Claro, los idiomas que estén presentes, pero entonces, digamos en escuelas que haya, por ejemplo, ¿cuál es su escuela?
Mi hija está en Bull Run.
Bull Run. ¿Y usted encuentra que allí que la mayoría de los padres qué idioma hablan, aparte del inglés?
No, en esa escuela puro inglés, pero yo estoy hablando nomás, hablando de los otros primos que tienen, o mi prima, que tenían en Herndon, o tenían en Bailey's Crossroads.
Ah, sí, ok.
Sí.
So, aquí estamos hablando de cuáles estrategias han sido efectivas en mantener a las familias, a los estudiantes, ¿verdad? Participando activamente. ¿Usted cree que entonces hacer de las PTA que se hagan en un solo idioma? Por ejemplo, si es inglés, en inglés, si es español, en español, o si es en coreano.
No, para mezclar los dos, so la gente puede saber o sentir como tan difícil para mantener sus hijos, al mismo tiempo escuchando al profesor o al principal y también alguien en su...
Ya, entonces que sí que le parece bueno entonces que la PTA esté ofreciendo la interpretación, la traducción de las reuniones en otros idiomas.
También la cafés también de la principal.
Ah, ok.
Ya regresan todos.
Oh, geez, we're back in the main room. What happened? What do you...
Welcome back to the main room, everyone.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be here for about another 30 minutes.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah.
Can we watch TV?
No. Just read and throttle down. Yep.
Is that a yes, Moses? I know we can.
I'm sorry. I'm holding a conversation with a person.
Oh no, I understand. I understand those distractions. I'm just saying, can you when it's time, when everyone's back, can you share out for a group?
Can I share? Yes. Is it all, where is it?
Everybody back?
Not in my head.
So is everybody back, Mike?
I'm not sure. Group 2 is back.
Yes, we're all back. Title I team,
Okay.
can we reestablish we're all back? And the next part, please.
Okay. Ok, muchísimas gracias por su participación, señor George y señora Marta.
I don't know, Mike.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is we were in 4 different groups for our time together. So we're going to ask group 1 to share with us a few highlights from your time together. And just as a reminder, the questions are on the screen.
Hi, Yvonne. Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's Gina Toller. I was with Group 1. Some big highlights that we have noticed throughout our discussion was around the areas of improvement, strategies, and some guiding principles for county leadership and school board members. Some of the things that we mentioned that really was highlighted this year was around, making sure that there's consistent and common messaging going out to school communities and families. Technology literacy, especially for parents and their knowledge around technology platforms in support of their students, as well as differentiating technology based on grade levels. So for instance, some schools have mentioned that kindergartners having to type that first day of school versus, the typing skills of a 5th grade is going to look very different. Learning spaces was a big topic within our group, like being cognizant and aware that not every family can provide the type of learning spaces in the same way. There was a comment also about letting students have some activities, just I guess tech break, so that they're engaged not only with connecting with their fellow classmates, but also being active, like getting up and actually doing some things rather than sitting at the computer. And another big highlight that came out is that is social and emotional support that many of the students and families are needing. That's come out since this whole pandemic and the closure of schools. Some strategies that we've discussed that the team felt like has supported family engagement is around some things like newsletters from administration, so keeping parents up to date. There's some exciting parent virtual information sessions that are out there. Through our discussion, we learned that some schools are doing self-care discussions with parents, providing updates on return to school, updates on current school status. Other participants in schools, like the guidance counselors, providing support to families around stress and anxiety. And one school has just had their first kindergarten virtual tour of their school. So that was a highlight that, that they shared with us as well. I think I have captured most of our discussion. If there's anybody on group 1 who would like to share anything additional that I haven't, please feel free to do so. But that was pretty much what we captured during our discussion.
I think there was one additional thing that you touched on, Gina, about the typing skills of a kindergartner and an 8th grader, but also recognizing that students didn't necessarily have typing skills when they brought home the laptop for virtual learning, whether they were in kindergarten or in 8th grade, just lacking those technology literacy skills.
All right, thank you, Group 1. I'm going to move us on to Group 2, and Moses is going to report out, and Mike and I can help be your backup, Moses.
You can help be my backup. I love it. I love it. I'm gonna take as much fire as I can. I thought the points that were just made were very good and enlightening. For the part that I was able to be in Group 2, we certainly discussed, 2 and 3, what strategies have been effective in keeping students and families engaged. What are the areas in need of greatest improvement for supporting students and families at this time? I think there was a theme that I gathered that we've been in this pandemic now for some time now, and this is our new normal. But how were we in position to meet some of these needs even before the pandemic? And now that we've gone through this, and we see that we've some areas that where there's really a lot of need. Whether it be engagement with children through this difficult time in class, virtually, I'm going through it with my kids. It's challenging, but we have to be very proactive. I think it's one of the themes that I came out of it with, and we have to approach it with a sense of urgency, and we would hope, I think, that those that would get some of these some of this information from these types of meetings and gatherings would understand that the decision making would need to have a sense of urgency that maybe it hasn't had before, regarding those parents that are just really struggling. I don't know what has happened to some parents and children that we have just lost touch with. I do know some of the reasons, though. I've certainly seen some things that I think many of you have, and how do we bridge those gaps? How do we form those links? Where it's more organized, where we can bring and reclaim a lot of those kids, and at least find out what's going on, the families, where the pandemic won't just be the excuse, but it's maybe more of an excuse, not the excuse, well, that's why they're not here, but maybe more the excuse of, well, that's why we can be more involved and have more of a sense of urgency in terms of reaching them regarding what needs they have now, and what needs they had even before the pandemic. Mike, Yvonne, you can jump in at any time.
I think you handled it really well. I mean, without repeating, we have a lot of, and I think we'll notice that there's some common themes amongst all our groups. But I think you really hit our main parts about, what opportunity are we going to take from this moment and doing better?
Mm-hmm.
And, I'll say it again, we should never go back to normal, because normal was not good for everybody, for sure.
The only thing I'll contribute to that is there was a lot of discussion about families that did leave, departed Fairfax to enroll their students in private schools. Across our group, many noted kindergarten students or younger learners. So that was a common thread for either private school or even homeschooling. And there was also consensus across the group that for those parents that were opting to homeschool, that they would continue to do so throughout the school year. And then one of the greatest improvements that was pretty common across all of our group members was the importance of having routines and making a decision and moving forward with that decision rather than the back and forth. And there was some mention about given the back and forth and the hesitancy that there were some potential trust issues between families and the school division. All right, how about group number 3, Lisa?
Sarah will be sharing for group number 3. So thank you so much, Sarah.
Yes, ma'am, here I am. We had very similar themes with regards to families that maybe are no longer one of our team members shared that she knew of students or families in her area that had been given the resources to help apply for rent assistance and other things like that. And so nobody had been evicted at the time at this point, but it was good to have those resources. I'm not exactly clear, maybe Nina wants to jump in about how they had got, if the school was helping get those resources for those folks. And then, some issues with the internet, and then other families she knew of that seemed to be planned moves. Are we supposed to go through all 3 points? Do you want me to share everything? Or we do? Okay.
Yes, go ahead, please. Sarah.
Okay. We were talking with regards to family engagement. Use Zoom with in-time interpretive services in order to keep to try to increase family engagement. And what we've done is we have a Zoom Pro account that we live stream to YouTube, and then it's recorded later, and that has helped, while we might have 7 people at a PTA meeting, which is pretty typical, we've the very first one of the school year where we had the school counselors trying to help parents deal with managing having the kids at home and things like that. We had over 100 views of that PTA meeting. So it has what's going on with my audio. It seems I have bad connection.
I can pick up if you want me to, Sarah.
May turn out to be helpful later.
I can pick up for you.
All right, thanks, Lisa.
Sure. And so other ways parents have been engaged. The parent liaison has been very helpful in calling parents and having family events for families to help them. Also having the counselor along with the parent liaison have been doing and the counselor have been doing events to help parents with internet safety, how to handle everything during this pandemic. So more like a social-emotional piece component to it. Feeling very comfortable with the one-on-one communication with the teacher calling home to the families, just checking in on them, so has been very helpful and manageable to get through this whole process of virtual life. And then the next question, kind of going back to how families have been happy with Title I and the school supplies, making sure that students have what they need even when they go back to school. They don't need to bring their own. The schools have supplies at school as well as at home, which has been very supportive. And then lastly, just thinking about equity, just keeping equity at the center, and being mindful of really being equitable across this huge division in terms of what's needed on one end of the county might be different from the other end of the county. So just being mindful of being equitable, almost to the degree of like what's needed per school. So all of that information was very helpful, and we tried to capture it in the Google form. If there's others who want to chime in, I hope Sarah and I captured your thoughts.
Thank you, Group 3. Beatrice, what contributions might you have for us?
Yes, I have two parents in my group. One of them shared that she really feels glad and satisfied with the ways that the school has tried to engage and reach out to the diverse family that there is in the school. Like, for example, the principal has been hosting principal coffees with the families, and she most recently hosted one that was very good and nice with those families that were returning in person to school, to give them the information and make them feel welcome and give them all the protocols and up to date what the school was doing to implement safety and keeping all the safety protocols that the school, along with the Department of Health, are implementing. And she said that she knew, yes, of one case of a mother who moved because she felt that her son wasn't really being supported academically. She said that her son complained about not being able to do more of what he wanted. She said that that student was very bright, so she finally ended up moving to another FCPS school where she reported to her. She feels much better served, that she feels that her son is really being helped and given all the tools to achieve beyond to what he was doing previously. The father that participated in my group also stated that he thinks that the PTA, among the things that the school was doing to promote family engagement, was that the PTA was being translated into the different languages represented in the school. He thinks that that's a great way to reach out and to make people feel participant in the PTA meetings. And that he, about the part, or I'm sorry, are just discussing one question at a time?
No, you can finish, Beatrice. You're doing well.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought that was. And one of the parents stated that she thinks that among the principles that there at the center should be equity. And she thinks that the school, she thinks, is taking great steps toward that goal. And also she thinks that besides empathy, equity, empathy should be also there. And she thinks and feels that the time and length of the school board meetings are not really very enticing to immigrant families to invite them to participate or pay attention to them. And she would like that their ideas and general plans that they realize and giving them, delivering to parents, be concise and clear so they can have a better understanding and participate in those.
I have a quick question since there's a little bit, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I was just going to ask Beatrice if there were any suggestions of other meeting topics that might be more relevant or interesting to some of the different families.
Yeah. One of the things that the mother touched was the AEP program. She said that she has tried several times to get her sons, her children, to be participating in that program, but hasn't been successful. And she thinks that those letters that she has received aren't very transparent and doesn't really give a lot of information for the parents to consider why their child wasn't accepted into the program. Was one of the main points that were discussed.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Beatrice. That is very beneficial to have your group's perspective for this evening. Anyone else? Anything that wasn't mentioned during the course of the share outs that you would like to put on the table before we move into the bylaws? All right, hearing none, Mike, I'm going to turn things back over to you.
Thank you, Yvonne. And I think for everybody's benefit, I should have pulled up. I have it pretty close. So I'm going to pull up, unless you have it faster, I'm going to pull up the bylaws just so folks can kind of see what the changes are. I know how to share, so give me 1 second.
I'm glad you learned how to share well in elementary school, Mike.
Well, I didn't say when I learned how to share. I just said I learned how to share. It's not overstated here. All right. So I'll talk it as it's coming up. So we wanted to give more flexibility to have representation and connection to our committee with whether it's other community groups or other perspectives, other school levels, and screen. All right, so folks, tell me if you can see the bylaws. Anybody? Sounds like that.
Yes,
okay,
you're good, Mike.
Thank you. All right. So what I want to show is what the changes are. Okay. Some of it's just cleaning up old stuff, like number 2 under membership.
Sorry, it's not really it. Like it's all black.
You can't see it anymore?
No, I just see a big black square.
Everybody sees that?
Yeah, Mike, you must have moved off of it, so you can only share one screen at a time.
No, I didn't move. I just enabled it. Okay, so maybe try it again.
Enable the track changes first and then share your screen.
Yeah, I did that now. I figured that was it. Okay, so we see it again?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Mike.
All right, good. So we're cleaning up just some old, outdated, and no longer relevant language for section B2 because that was, the structure was different. I think there was like a Title II or something at the time, and that doesn't really apply to us. And we definitely have more than 75% of the committee are parents whose children receive Title I services. But we went down, and it's really 5, 6, 7, and 8 where the changes are. It's similar to middle school liaison position, which we've had as long as I've been involved with the committee, past 7 years. A high school one as well. And the only caveat is that the high school has at least 2 elementary schools that feed into it that are identified as Title I. Because it's important that it is a high school. It's important that that perspective is informed by something that's local and connected. And if there's a high school that doesn't have Title I schools, that perspective really shouldn't be on this group. This committee is focused on Title I schools and students and families there. So we want to give that perspective because it is a journey. It's not elementary, it's not middle, it's not high, so it's all 3. But we wanted to connect it to Title I. And we also want to allow space for community organizations who'll be like liaisons. There'll be many members of voting rights. And if they are to serve in the executive board, they have to have a child attending Title I school because, again, that connection is valuable. The perspective and the work that the community organization may do, or that liaison respective to that organization, is important, but they need to still know what's going on in Title I schools just so they're informed. And 7 kind of addresses that as well. In terms of being on executive board, that's something that, will cover, well, it speaks to the chair and vice chair. Even a closer tie to a Title I school. So if, your child has to have been there within the last 4 years, again, you still need to be close to what's going on so you understand it. And if it's too far away, your perspective is just not the same. And membership terms, I think we just put language to make clear that our elections are in the spring, but the terms kind of start in the fall because principals kind of put forward, who the rep's going to be. But in the springtime after elections, we'll send those names to the principals. So the person will continue in the fall as the representative. And we actually meet in June to start the next year. In the past, we've done August meetings, and while we may not be traveling at the same rate or pace as before, it's just during the school year when folks are at least still somewhat plugged in, and so it doesn't require people to come back or cut anything short for meetings. And just conforming language under the executive board to reflect those positions. And about if a position is vacated or unfilled prematurely, then the executive board, may have somebody to serve in the office until we can have that person actually voted in by the membership at the following meeting. And the last amendment is just that these bylaws are reviewed every 2 years. I don't remember the last time, maybe it was 2 years, but I think it's just a good practice. And there's going to be, the school board has a public engagement committee that is talking to all citizen advisory committees. So more changes may be happening to the process, whether or not it affects our bylaws. It may affect, how we do some of our business. But, every 2 years is, a good touch point to check in and see if anything, needs some amending. So I want to give time if folks, and I'll go back to the major changes again, if folks have any questions or any discussion. I'm waving off people. Yeah, he's going to be quiet. We'll see how that works. Any discussion from anybody? Hearing none, then, or hands up, making sure, hands up? Okay.
Actually, Courtney is going to launch a poll so that we can have an official vote as a result of the Blackboard session. So if you could simply mark yes or no that you agree to the proposed changes to the bylaws.
Well, that's a cool poll. I hate on Blackboard a lot, but this poll is kind of nice.
Yeah, we're testing out a new feature, Mike.
Beatrice, I realize I've said a lot too fast. Is there anything that you'd like me to go over again?
You're okay. I know you.
So I just want to emphasize that it currently says that 11 individuals have been voted. So ultimately, the FCPS staff will not be included as part of that vote. So I'm looking over the TPAC representatives, and it looks to me like we have votes from everyone but George. George, are you able to?
He's not a rep. He's not a rep.
Oh, he's not a rep.
I think all our representatives have voted.
Okay, very good.
Stephanie might be the only one. Everybody else is a representative. Okay, so I think we're good. Okay.
All right, very good. So based on the poll and verifying that all of the TPAC representatives have voted, Mike, the bylaws have fully passed. We'll include those as part of the school board annual report. And if you will accept all the changes and send me the finalized version, we'll have to send the bylaws over so that they can be uploaded to the TPAC school board website.
Yvonne, I apologize, but the poll, somebody cleared the poll, and so I didn't have time to capture it.
It was 11. It was unanimous. We're good.
Okay, so we don't need the visual. Okay.
I think we had 13 that said yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate that. And before we close, I wanted to give a little bit of time to Farah. Are you still on? I wanted to give you a few minutes to talk about something I think all of us would be, it would serve us well to hear.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not going to turn my video on. I just have my kids kind of all over the place here. So basically, I was part of the FCPS board-appointed religious task force committee, and before the pandemics began, we were responsible for coming up with some changes per FCPS, and we did this through the Office of the Ombudsman with Mr. Armando Perry. And we were looking at different aspects of religious equity in FCPS for the minority faith groups, which were represented by the Jewish community, Sikh, Muslim, Baha'i, Hindu, so and some Christian community members as well. And basically, we were tasked with coming up with a calendar that could be incorporated for the 2021-2022 year. And we were also working on some curriculum improvements and professional development with teachers, where we would look at literature that was being taught and make sure that things were represented properly and that there weren't inaccuracies in the way certain parts of history or literature were represented in FCPS, and that also the teachers were given the proper training to teach specific subjects, and that these subjects were taught fairly. So the first task was obviously the calendar. So we came up with some calendar options. We went through a very rigorous process, and we made sure that we were doing it in a very equitable manner. We asked all the faith communities to put in their input, And we came up with 4 major holidays, Diwali, Eid, Yom Kippur, and Rosh Hashanah that um, we were decided on having that as a day off. And of course, we worked with, adjusting this with teachers' schedules and working days and all that kind of stuff that needed to be done. We presented our findings to the calendar committee. The calendar committee came up with, 2 options, an option A, option B calendar. When it was presented to the board just recently, just a few weeks ago, we were appalled to kind of learn that a 3rd calendar had been introduced. So after doing all this kind of almost a year of rigorous work, they introduced this 3rd calendar, which completely showed a lack of transparency on the part of the board that didn't include anything. And we were given some excuses about, why they didn't want to vote on this calendar. Meanwhile, Arlington County, Loudoun County, Prince William County also saw that FCPS, being the largest county, was adding these holidays. They thought we should get on the ball. They voted on the holidays as well, and they incorporated it into their calendars for next year already, despite the pandemic. So we were really disappointed to learn that this 3rd calendar was introduced. And so now what we're trying to do is, because we kind of feel like it's not in line with the whole idea of, one Fairfax that we've been introduced to, which the school board, said was a priority for the school system, and retaining a calendar that's like impervious to Fairfax's richly diverse population. And it's really out of step with the neighboring jurisdictions, as I mentioned. So we really kind of feel disappointed in Fairfax County board because we weren't given a chance to look at this 3rd calendar. It seemed like they didn't even want to tweak the first 2 options that were already approved by the calendar committee. So what we're trying to do is the minority faith groups have come together again, and we've been trying to speak to board members. We've also been speaking to different groups that we feel would be interested in this. And trying to get the community to sign a letter. So there's 3 kind of parts to this. We're kind of sharing our advocacy efforts with everybody. So this is kind of one way that we're doing it. The second thing is we're having interfaith leaders kind of sign letters to support this. And that includes the Christian community as well. And we've gotten a lot of support from everybody, and we're also having the youth speak out on why it's important for them to have these special holidays and how they feel not having these religious observances being recognized on the calendar. One of the excuses that they're talking about was like they're kind of in our mind they're kind of pitting academic equity against like religious equity, and that kind of to us just increases division and conflict among people of different faiths and races and ethnicities, which is exactly what should be the opposite of what's happening, based on what Fairfax has been told that we've been working towards, is to kind of create this equity amongst race and faith communities. So they're kind of driving a wedge between, it's almost like us against them. They don't want to be that way. And they're kind of disregarding the needs of the community and the needs of their students, which is really important because as someone who I'm of Muslim faith, my son would go to school, like we would do our prayers, and he would go to school because he would feel so scared about missing out on something. So that's one of the things that we felt like was very important, and a lot of the youth are speaking out. They're also signing a petition. And so we just are looking for support from this group as well, because we think it's important. It's not just the minority faith groups that have to speak out, but we need, all faiths to speak out and say, be transparent in the process and include, us. This was board appointed to begin with, so we're a little confused as to why we weren't shown any options, or that there wasn't flexibility to kind of tweak the other calendars and try to have a compromise met between both groups. So we're hoping to get your support. We hope that if you have questions, you can feel free to reach out to me, and Mike, if you want to share my information, you can feel free to do so. And we would really love the support of, if you have faith groups that you're a part of. We would love to hear from them and how they feel about all of this.
Thank you for that. I have a question. How would it be individuals from the TPAC? You looking individuals and the TPAC? You know, what type of support is most helpful, or and what's the timetable?
So the vote is going to be on March 18th. There's going to be an introduction, and now we've since been told that there's a fourth calendar that's been introduced, which we also have not seen. So we have been working week to week, kind of getting board members to hear our voices. And so March 18th is the vote. So there will be a community-wide petition that can be signed by TPAC members. If you have good connections with a leadership in your own faith communities, I can send you, we have a draft of a letter that we can have them send and sign the leadership of your faith group can sign that petition. And if you have youth that, are involved with any faith-based groups, it doesn't have to be minority faith-based groups, we would love to have them sign the petition as well. But there will be a community-wide petition that we're going to be working on sending out this week. So we really feel like there's strength in numbers. And I think the board kind of doesn't realize that there is such, large group here that is going to be opposed to this. So I think showing the strength in numbers will be essential. And the other thing I will add, and I know everybody wants to go, we've had a long meeting. The other thing I will add is, the calendar was just the first portion. We were looking at inequities in the curriculum and in professional development for teachers, and I think that's really important. And I feel like if we're disregarded in the calendar portion of this, everything that we've kind of been working towards is going to be kind of disregarded, and that would be very, very disappointing for everybody. Because I think if you have a community and you are truly committed to hearing the voices of the community, then this is part of that. And if being on our side and kind of supporting us is really important, because they really want to see the numbers, and we want to show them that we are here, we are paying attention, and this is very important to us.
Thank you for that. And if you could send me the information, and it can be attached to the follow-up that we send out following the meeting, and then just let folks know of the timelines and the specific asks, and if possible, right now it's February 23rd. If possible, I don't know if we can set it up, but maybe if it has to be full committee, if we can get enough votes, if we have to do it in the virtual format, maybe we can set something up. Otherwise, folks can at least sign it as individuals and then send it out to leaders in their respective faith communities too.
Yes, that would be great. I will do that. Thank you very much for letting me have an opportunity to speak today.
We appreciate that. And, while we spend time putting together an agenda and sharing information, I mean, it's never a wrong time to share information that impacts a lot of us in our schools and our communities. So we appreciate you sharing it. Beatrice, you had one thing you wanted to say?
Yes, but in Spanish. So I don't know, maybe at the end.
Go ahead, it's fine.
Okay. Yes, I just want to ask two of parents that I see here, maybe if they need my services for the next time. Señor Luis George Becerra y Luis Mejía, quisiera ofrecerles mis servicios si ustedes lo necesitan para la próxima reunión. Necesitaría sus números de teléfono para poderlos incluirlo en la llamada conferencia, si lo desean así.
Beatrice, thank you, Burr. Okay, this is Luis Mejia.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Title I, for all your support, getting all these documents and all the different segments we had to get done. Really appreciate it. And hope everybody stays well and safe, and good luck for those who are entering back into school. And our next meeting will be April 20th. So I guess have a good spring break if we don't communicate before then.
Thank you, Mike. Can you put that link in the comments? Is there a way to click on it? I don't have QR abilities.
I don't know if I can. Yvonne may be able to.
Yes, I'm getting it right now. One moment. I'm sorry.
Thanks all. And one thing, I don't know, I missed the very beginning of this, Mike. I don't know if you said it, but thank you everybody for participating. And if you know of anyone that would like to join us, don't forget, we're always welcoming more people that are looking to get onto the executive board and also into TPAC in general to get more voices, more views, more of everything on. And
Yvonne, what are you doing with that dog?
Soon.
We're about to sign out. Anyone need anything else? Or are we good?
I think we're good, Mike. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. Have a good night.